Okay, so on this video, there's just been a bunch of little things that have happened. I wrote a bunch of them down. I'm gonna get through as many as I can. Hopefully I don't go over 10 minutes. We'll see how this goes, just because there's not enough to talk about to make like a whole video, but a lot of good things to know about. So I'm gonna call this one Crazy New Laws / Protests. But this is a very wide variety of topics. Okay, first thing. Virginia tried to pass a new gun control bill. That bill being introduced resulted in a giant Second Amendment rally protest happening with 22,000 peaceful people coming carrying guns. And it got a lot of coverage. It was a big deal. And it worked because the Senate actually decided not to pass it. They decided to look into the concerns of the people, and they're going to review what the bill proposes, and then they're going to look at it again in a year. So it wasn't denied, so the problem still exists, but we'll find out in a year what exactly is happening with all of that. So the bill they were going to pass, as far as I understand, was basically going to take everybody in Virginia's guns away. You could keep a couple guns, maybe like a handgun was okay. I'm not sure, but the rules were so strict it was just gonna remove basically every gun. New York and Virginia are the ones I know about. There might be more. Pass laws that illegal aliens get free IDs and driver's licenses. So also different states are having problems with illegal voting that we know of. There was a woman who had a green card who's now in jail, I think for 5 years, I'm not exactly sure, because she voted. She did it unknowingly. She got stuff in the mail saying that she needed to vote. Then a ballot came, she voted, and then got caught having voted. So it's not like she went and tried to deceive our system and then vote. She had a green card, and the system should know the difference between citizens and, green card holders, Anyway, so she's in jail now. So, it happened in one state, forget the name. They have 7 proven cases of illegals having voted in their case, which doesn't seem like a very big number, but their governor won by 1 vote. So in the local voting, it can be a really big deal to have even 7 people voting who shouldn't have been able to vote. It could have swung that whole election. So anyway, that's a big topic people are talking about. The UN, that means United Nations, it's like a big board, is targeting Israel with sanctions and any American companies who also work with Israel. They're being hit with sanctions for human rights violations, which no one else is being targeted, and people on that list, different countries, have Sharia law. So it seems a bit unfair and is a little bit outrageous that that's happening. The State Department that we currently have is working on ending women and gay abuse around the world. So we are advocating very strongly that you should not be killing your members just because they are gay, and you should not be limiting women to not being able to drive and not being able to vote and things like that all over the place, and we are seeing some big progress in those areas. Alabama State Representative Roland Hills, okay, this one's funny. She's proposed a bill recently that would force men over 50 or men who have 3 children to get a vasectomy, because she says that would lower the rates of abortion and not make the responsibility of children all on women. I don't think they voted on this yet. This isn't law or anything. This is just a bill that's been introduced, but it's crazy. So anyway, I don't need to say much about that. Everybody has their own thoughts. Utah passed a reformed bill which decriminalizes polygamy. This passed with unanimous support. So they've had criminalized polygamy for a very long time now, and they all decided that that was not working. So they decriminalized it. So now if you come forward and you're in a polygamous relationship, or let's say you're a child and your mom is one of many wives of somebody. Utah is also the capital for Mormonism, which I think is where most of this coming, but a lot of polygamy is also coming out of the Muslim Muslim groups as well, illegal polygamy. So if you come forward and you talk about abuse or being like sexual abuse or anything like that, your mom won't get in trouble for being in a polygamous relationship. You'll have full coverage over the laws. You didn't break any laws. It's still frowned upon, but it's not illegal. So you can then report crimes to the government and be taken care of. If you're a man and you're in a polygamous relationship and you get convicted of having abused or sexually abused anybody, you get an automatic extra 15 years in jail. So that still stands, but it's just decriminalized to actually be in a polygamous relationship. Anyway, when I first heard it, I was like, huh? And then when I heard a little bit more, I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. Anyway, it passed within 5 minutes and nobody, like right and left, agreed on it. So that makes me feel really comfortable with it. It just doesn't sound terribly great when you first hear about it, but I don't know. By the end of talking about it, I thought maybe it was okay. So we'll have to see how that works out. Trump has a new initiative to plant 1 trillion trees to help with environment stuff. It's called the Affordable Clean Energy Rule. I wanted to give a little update about Jordan Peterson. I thought here might be a good place to do it. He's really sick. He's still going through withdrawals and stuff. The media is being really mean to him about it, saying that he's like just the drug addict or whatever, and they're trying to play it up. But he actually is like, was in and out of ERs with like lung stuff. His daughter gave an update. I would recommend watching that and praying for him. So just keep him in your prayers. There's a new lawsuit about female athletes are right now suing some trans athletes because men are competing against women in different sports. Men who've transitioned to women or are identifying as women competing in women's sports, and women don't like that so much. So that's a whole argument that's happening right now. It's huge, so I don't even want to get into it. Just that's the thing that's happening. Trump and Barr, remember, is the Attorney General. Trump and Barr have announced sanctions against sanctuary states. It's turning into like an all-out war. Elite law enforcement people with like equipment have been like dispatched to some of these sanctuary states. There's lawsuits coming against them. Sanctions are coming against these sanctuary states, and Trump is working on legalizing, passing into law the ability for families of victims resulted from the actions of these sanctuary states to be able to sue those sanctuary states for damages. Such as, if you watch the State of the Union address, he refers to an older woman having been raped and killed by a illegal who had been arrested the week before, but instead of giving him to ICE officers, since they're a sanctuary state, they released him, and then he killed somebody. That's been happening a lot, and that family would then be able to sue them. Colorado voted no on a bill that would enforce medical care be given to babies that are born during an abortion. So they're born alive, and they said no, that they don't have to give them medical care. If they were wanting to kill that baby, they can just leave them to die after being born. So that happened in Colorado. Trump is trying to get past the Senate. We need more votes in the Senate and the House and all this kind of stuff, because this stuff is happening. He's trying to get past the Senate that late-term abortion will be legal across the entire country, so that states can't make decisions like this, because we're seeing this more and more in different places. I think New York has also passed something very similar of up until the day of birth, you can, even after birth, you can still abort/kill your child. So the Senate is voting soon, or maybe did, on an act called the Iran War Powers Resolution. And that basically is something that they're doing to try to keep Trump from being able to go to war with Iran, which would just be signaling to Iran, like, hey, we're against all of this. We're not letting him attack you, which would undermine our whole position on different things. They're doing that because of Soleimani, because Trump killed Soleimani. So, Omar's released a new plan called A Pathway to Peace, which is basically how we should be nice to everybody and, be nicer, basically. In the Canadian presidential debates, they tried to block conservative journalists from attending. So those news sources sued them, and they're called The Rebel and True North. They sued the Canadian government and they won, and then they were forced to attend. They were forced them to allow them to attend, and they also got to ask questions during this debate. They asked them more questions than any other newspapers there. It was kind of a cool story. In the UK, there's a book that came out called The Libranos, and it's a political book about how one of the candidates is bad and you shouldn't vote for him. And they're now investigating it as a marketing campaign, and he's threatened to be going to jail because of his book for election meddling. He brought a secret camera and filmed the whole interaction, and that's becoming a whole big news story. Another thing is the coronavirus might be man-made. That's a big theory that's kind of going around. The fish market where it broke out is right across the street from a laboratory where they work with diseases, and it's disease control thing. So yeah, anyway, it's a whole thing. And there's also theories that are a bit of a conspiracy theory still at this point, that they released the virus on purpose to end the Hong Kong riots, which happened. It finally, it's been going on for ages, and then they did, with the whole shutdown and quarantine and stuff, they did end that. So that's kind of a very dark thing to think about, but people think that now. Jussie Smollett is being, so let's see, I don't know how much you all know about this. He is a black actor, and he's gay, and he pretended to have a hate crime done against himself, and the district attorney at the time didn't charge him with anything. They just let the whole thing go. Then they got a new district attorney who is now charging him, and he's being charged to pay damages for all the money that was spent by the state to investigate his fake attack, and that this all happened a year ago, and now he's pressing charges against the state. It's getting to be a whole big thing. We'll have to see how that all goes and how the courts do it. Hopefully he will be held accountable. It was a whole thing. He was blaming Trump supporters, so it was a very political thing, just to get more attention and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. All right, see ya.